Imagine living in a time where one act of kindness could alter the course of history. Today, we're diving into the untold story of Zipporah and Moses, one that reveals how love, courage, and faith forged an extraordinary legacy. Stick around because this story isn't just about the past, it's about finding your own purpose in the most unexpected places. The sun blazed over the arid landscape of Midian as Zipporah, the eldest daughter of Jethro, guided her sisters to the well for water. A tense hush fell as shepherds approached, jeering and threatening to take their turn by force. Zipporah, used to such altercations, prepared to defend her sisters when a foreigner intervened. Clad in Egyptian garments, his presence was commanding yet unfamiliar. The stranger drove the shepherds away and helped draw water for the women's flocks. Zipporah's intrigue turned to admiration as he displayed strength and kindness in equal measure. When they returned home early, their father, Jethro, inquired about their swift return. Upon hearing of the man's heroics, Jethro extended an invitation to the Egyptian. Little did they know, this act of hospitality would alter the course of history forever. Over dinner, the stranger revealed his identity as Moses, a former Egyptian prince who fled after defending a Hebrew slave. His tale of exile resonated with Jethro, a Midianite priest well-versed in stories of trials and divine intervention. Moses shared his yearning for purpose, unaware that this moment would set him on a path ordained by God. Zipporah observed quietly, her curiosity deepening with every word. Her father, impressed by Moses' forthrightness and sense of justice, offered him a place among their family and people. This gesture of inclusion marked the beginning of a bond that transcended cultural divides, sowing the seeds of an extraordinary union. Days turned into weeks as Moses grew familiar with life among the Midianites. Jethro's household became a sanctuary, and Moses found solace in the simplicity of their daily routines. Zipporah's keen intellect and quiet strength drew his attention. She was unlike anyone he had known, steadfast, yet compassionate. Their connection deepened over shared conversations by the fire and during tasks in the wilderness. Eventually, Jethro proposed a union between Moses and Zipporah. The ceremony was humble yet profound, symbolizing the union of two cultures and destinies. As Zipporah accepted Moses' hand, she pledged herself not only to her husband but to the unseen path that awaited them. Adjusting to life as Moses' wife was both a joy and a challenge for Zipporah. While she embraced her husband's values and vision, she often felt the weight of his internal struggles. Moses wrestled with his identity, torn between his Hebrew heritage, Egyptian upbringing, and newfound Midianite family. Zipporah's steadfast support became his anchor, as she encouraged him to seek clarity in faith and purpose. Despite cultural differences, their bond deepened, built on mutual respect and shared hope for a future guided by God's hand. One fateful day, while tending Jethro's flock, Moses wandered to the edge of the wilderness near Mount Horeb. There, a miraculous sight awaited him, a bush ablaze yet unconsumed. As Moses approached, the voice of God commanded him to remove his sandals, for he stood on holy ground. God revealed his plan to deliver the Israelites from Egypt and chose Moses as the instrument of liberation. Overwhelmed, Moses hesitated, but the divine assurance propelled him forward. When he returned to Zipporah that evening, his countenance had changed, glowing with a divine purpose. Moses struggled to convey the enormity of his divine encounter to Zipporah. Her initial reaction was a mix of awe and apprehension. She admired his faith, but feared the dangers that awaited him in Egypt. Yet, her deep trust in both Moses and God compelled her to support him. Together, they prepared for the journey, packing essentials and gathering their two young sons. As they set out, Zipporah's heart carried both hope and trepidation, aware that their lives were about to change forever. As the caravan set out from Midian, the wilderness stretched endlessly before them. Moses walked ahead, gripping his staff as a tangible reminder of God's promise, while Zipporah followed with their sons, Gershom and Eliezer. Despite the harsh conditions, Zipporah remained composed, comforting the children with stories of her people's traditions. Her quiet strength steadied Moses, whose mind swirled with thoughts of Pharaoh's court and the Israelites' plight. Along the way, they encountered small nomadic groups, exchanging provisions and tales, deepening the sense of anticipation and uncertainty surrounding their mission. The family paused at a small shelter for rest after days of relentless travel. That night, an unsettling tension filled the air. Moses seemed preoccupied, his prayers more fervent than usual. Zipporah awoke abruptly to see Moses in distress, clutching his chest as though under a heavy weight. It was then she realized the divine nature of the moment. God was angry, and their mission was at risk. Without hesitation, Zipporah acted on an ancient covenantal law, circumcising her son with a flint knife. Her decisive actions saved Moses' life, though she bore the emotional weight of the ordeal. As the tension subsided, Zipporah wiped her hands and whispered, "You are a bridegroom of blood to me." The words carried layers of emotion, relief, frustration, and a somber acceptance of their covenant with God. Moses, regaining his strength, met her gaze with gratitude, though the weight of their mission pressed heavily on both. This event marked a pivotal shift in their journey, solidifying Zipporah's role not merely as a companion, but as a critical participant in the divine plan. Their shared understanding deepened, though the path ahead seemed more daunting than ever. As they approached the Egyptian border, Moses' resolve hardened. Zipporah, however, noticed the growing tension in their small caravan. The children sensed the change in mood, and Zipporah tried to reassure them with gentle words. Moses, deeply introspective, rehearsed God's instructions. When they reached the outskirts of Egypt, Moses sent Zipporah and the children back to Midian with Jethro for their safety. Though the decision pained them both, it reflected Moses' commitment to his perilous mission and Zipporah's trust in his judgment. The days stretched into weeks as Zipporah adjusted to life back in Midian. Though physically distant from Moses, she felt spiritually bound to him, sharing in his trials through prayer and reflection. Jethro often reassured her, speaking of the divine destiny Moses was fulfilling. Zipporah, however, struggled with conflicting emotions: pride in Moses' courage, fear for his safety, and longing for their family's unity. Every messenger brought news of Pharaoh's defiance and the escalating plagues. She listened intently, imagining Moses standing firm before the might of Egypt, armed only with his faith and staff. Her evenings were filled with stories for Gershom and Eliezer, weaving hope into their understanding of their father's mission. Yet, the uncertainty gnawed at her, the question always lingering: would Moses return to them, or would his mission consume him entirely? As the reports of the 10th plague reached Midian, Zipporah shuddered at the weight of it. The death of Egypt's firstborn marked both the culmination of God's wrath and the beginning of Israel's liberation. She felt the enormity of Moses' role in bringing this judgment upon Pharaoh's house, yet trusted in the righteousness of God's plan. That night, under a blanket of stars, she wept silently, torn between relief that the exodus was imminent and sorrow for the immense cost of this deliverance. Jethro comforted her, speaking of the balance between divine justice and mercy, but the magnitude of Moses' task loomed ever larger in her heart. Messengers arrived with news that Pharaoh had relented, allowing the Israelites to leave Egypt. Zipporah's heart swelled with joy and trepidation. She imagined Moses leading the throngs of freed people, a shepherd guiding his flock to safety. Gershom and Eliezer, too young to grasp the full weight of the events, celebrated with innocent exuberance. For Zipporah, the moment was bittersweet. Moses was fulfilling his divine calling, but the distance between them persisted. She resolved to remain strong, her faith in God's plan and her husband unshaken. Word finally came that Moses had reached the wilderness with the Israelites and awaited Jethro's caravan. Zipporah prepared herself for the long-awaited reunion, dressing in her finest robes to honor the moment. As the caravan approached the Israelite camp, she spotted Moses in the distance, his figure strong and resolute, yet visibly weathered by the trials he had endured. Their eyes met, and the weight of separation melted into a single moment of connection. Moses embraced her and the children, a rare softness in his demeanor, as he murmured words of gratitude for their safety. The reunion was a testament to their shared resilience and the bond that had survived every trial. What would you have done in Zipporah's shoes? Would you have had the courage to act so decisively when Moses' life hung in the balance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how you'd navigate such a pivotal moment. As Zipporah and Moses reunited, Jethro arrived with words of wisdom. He observed the overwhelming burden Moses carried as leader and judge for the Israelites. "You will wear yourself out," Jethro warned, "and the people with you." Moses listened as Jethro proposed a system of delegation, appointing wise, God-fearing men to handle smaller disputes, leaving Moses to focus on matters of great significance. Moses implemented the advice, easing the weight on his shoulders. Zipporah marveled at her father's foresight and Moses' humility, seeing how both men valued wisdom and practicality alongside faith. As Moses grew into his leadership role, Zipporah grappled with her position in the Israelite camp. While many revered her as Moses' wife, others viewed her as an outsider, a Midianite unfamiliar with their customs. She sought ways to bridge the cultural divide, learning their traditions and sharing Midianite wisdom. Her calm demeanor and deep spirituality earned her quiet respect among the women. Still, Zipporah often felt isolated, balancing the weight of being both Moses' support and an individual navigating her own identity within this vast, unfamiliar community. Mount Sinai loomed large over the camp as Moses ascended to commune with God. Zipporah, like the rest of the Israelites, watched in awe and trepidation as the mountain shrouded itself in fire and thunder. The days of Moses' absence were filled with tension. Zipporah led her children in prayers, reassuring them of God's faithfulness. When Moses returned with the tablets of the law, his face radiant from divine glory, Zipporah felt both pride and a profound sense of responsibility. She realized their family's life would be forever shaped by the laws that would govern God's people. Despite the Israelites' reverence for Moses, tensions occasionally surfaced. Zipporah became the subject of criticism, especially from Miriam and Aaron. Her Midianite heritage was a point of contention, and rumors of her influence over Moses spread. Though hurt, Zipporah maintained her dignity, trusting God to vindicate her. When Miriam's jealousy led to her punishment of leprosy, Moses' intercession demonstrated his unwavering love for his sister and his commitment to unity within the camp. The incident deepened Zipporah's understanding of the challenges Moses faced as both a leader and a brother. Over time, Zipporah's presence became an integral part of the camp's life. Her influence, though subtle, was evident in the growing acceptance of Moses' authority and the blending of wisdom from her Midianite upbringing with Israelite traditions. Gershom and Eliezer thrived under her nurturing care, their dual heritage reflecting the broader story of unity amidst diversity. Zipporah often reflected on the unexpected journey her life had taken, from the quiet wells of Midian to the heart of God's plan for his people. Life in the wilderness grew increasingly challenging as the Israelites grappled with faith, doubt, and survival. Moses' responsibilities grew heavier, and Zipporah watched as the weight of leadership visibly aged him. She offered quiet support, ensuring he had moments of peace amidst the chaos. One evening, Moses confided his fears and frustrations to her, admitting his doubts about whether he could carry the people to the promised land. Zipporah's response was simple yet profound. "You do not carry them alone. God is with you, as he has always been." Her words renewed Moses' spirit, reminding him that his strength lay not in his abilities, but in God's faithfulness. As Gershom grew older, he began to ask deeper questions about his identity. "Why do we live among these people who are not like us?" he asked Zipporah one day. Zipporah carefully explained their family's unique role in God's plan, emphasizing their Midianite heritage and their connection to the Israelites. She spoke of Moses' calling, the covenant with God, and the importance of faithfulness. Gershom listened intently, his youthful curiosity blending with a burgeoning sense of purpose. Zipporah felt a pang of pride and worry. Her son was growing into a man who would one day carry the weight of their shared legacy. The day the Israelites forged the golden calf was one of turmoil and grief for Moses and Zipporah. As Moses descended Mount Sinai with the tablets of the law, Zipporah could see his anger burning even before he reached the camp. She shielded their sons from the chaos as Moses shattered the idol and called the people to repentance. That evening, Moses confided in her his heartbreak over the Israelites' betrayal of God. Zipporah, ever the voice of steadiness, urged him to focus on the remnant who remained faithful. "Not all have turned away," she said. "God's plan is greater than this failure." Her words brought Moses a measure of solace amidst the storm of doubt. The aftermath of the golden calf incident left the Israelites fractured and repentant. Zipporah worked quietly to help rebuild the community's trust, often through small acts of kindness and wisdom. She visited families who had lost loved ones in the conflict, offering solace and prayer. Though her actions were subtle, they had a profound impact on those around her, showing that leadership was not just about great speeches or divine miracles, but also about meeting people where they were. Moses, too, leaned on her counsel, recognizing her innate ability to heal wounds of the heart. Eliezer, though younger than Gershom, displayed an inner strength and resilience that often amazed Zipporah. One day, as the family watched Moses oversee the construction of the tabernacle, Eliezer asked, "Will this be our home?" Zipporah smiled, explaining that the tabernacle was not a home but a dwelling place for God's presence. "Then we must make it worthy of him," Eliezer said with conviction. Zipporah marveled at his understanding and prayed silently that both her sons would grow to be men of faith and integrity, carrying forward the legacy she and Moses were building. One night, Zipporah awoke from a vivid dream. She saw Moses standing on the edge of a great river, with multitudes crossing behind him into a land of abundance. Yet Moses himself did not enter. She shared the dream with Moses, who listened in silence, his eyes filled with a mix of peace and sadness. "It is as the Lord wills," he said softly. Though neither spoke of it again, Zipporah carried the dream in her heart, sensing it was both a blessing and a burden, a glimpse of the destiny awaiting her husband and their people. The day the tabernacle was completed was a moment of unparalleled unity and celebration among the Israelites. Moses led the dedication ceremony, offering prayers of thanksgiving as the glory of God descended upon the sanctuary in a cloud of radiant light. Zipporah stood among the women, her sons at her side, feeling a profound sense of awe and purpose. Though she was not an Israelite by birth, she understood that her life was intricately woven into this covenantal story. Gershom and Eliezer marveled at the sight, their young eyes filled with wonder. For Zipporah, the moment was a culmination of sacrifice, faith, and God's enduring promise. As the years passed, the Israelites faced ongoing trials in the wilderness, droughts, rebellions, and the constant challenge of survival. Zipporah became a pillar of quiet strength, supporting Moses as he navigated the relentless demands of leadership. She noticed how the pressures of guiding a wayward nation weighed on him, yet his resolve never faltered. At night, they spoke of their shared dreams for the future, though Zipporah sensed Moses' growing awareness that he might not see the promised land. She encouraged him to trust in God's plan, reminding him that his faithfulness would bear fruit in ways they could not yet see. Zipporah devoted much of her energy to preparing her sons for the future. She taught Gershom and Eliezer not only about their heritage, but also the virtues of humility, courage, and obedience to God. "Your father carries the burden of a nation," she would tell them. "You must carry the lessons he leaves behind." Her wisdom shaped them into thoughtful and compassionate young men. She also sought to instill in them a deep understanding of their Midianite heritage, ensuring they honored both sides of their lineage. Through her quiet influence, Zipporah preserved the values that would endure beyond her lifetime. When the time came for Moses to ascend Mount Nebo and view the promised land from afar, Zipporah knew it was a significant and final chapter. Though not explicitly part of the moment, she felt the weight of its significance. Moses left with a quiet determination, his farewell to Zipporah filled with gratitude and unspoken understanding. Standing at a distance with her sons, Zipporah watched as Moses disappeared into the mountain's shadow. Her heart swelled with pride and sorrow, knowing he had fulfilled his mission. The silence that followed was heavy, yet she felt God's peace settle over her and the boys. In the years that followed Moses' passing, Zipporah remained a quiet but influential figure among the Israelites. Her wisdom and compassion earned her the respect of many. Even as she continued to live on the margins of the community, she often recounted Moses' teachings to her sons and the younger generation, ensuring that his legacy endured. Zipporah reflected on her life, a journey from a simple Midianite woman to the wife of a prophet and mother of a legacy that spanned nations. She knew her role had been essential, even if history might remember her only briefly. "Faithfulness," she often said, "is not in being seen, but in knowing you have walked the path God set for you." As Moses and Zipporah's journey shows, it's not the titles we carry, but the actions we take that define our legacy. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep these timeless lessons alive. Share your reflections in the comments. And who knows, your words might inspire someone else's journey.